Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination. News, newsmakers, talking points, news without the noise. We have plenty on the show tonight. But first, let's bring you, as always, what's our big talking point? How can India defang Trump's tariffs? Among my special guests tonight will be Dr. Raghuram Rajan, the former RBI Governor and leading economist. He'll tell us what's the rationale behind the Trump tariffs and how should India respond. We'll also have exporters joining us from the ground and ground reports from across the country. But first to the story that's breaking at the moment, the latest on that big tariff war between India and the United States. Sources now telling India today that communication channels remain open between New Delhi and Washington, and there are still positive signals that can be built upon. Sources claiming that the government is now working on what is being described as a multi-pronged strategy, and the Reserve Bank of India team is meeting the various affected sectors. Remember, several exporters claim that their businesses are going to shut down because of these tariff restrictions. Sources claiming that there will be an attempt made also to reach out to other markets. Joining me now is our senior editor, Maria Shakil. Maria, the fact is that the government of India has not officially responded to the tariffs that have come in place from today. It's all source-based. Does the government have a clear plan in place, or is the option more wait and watch to see what Donald Trump does next?
So the sense certainly within the government right now, Rajdeep, is that there is quiet confidence, and at the same time they are waiting and watching as to how Washington will react. Because if you look at the statement which came in from the Treasury Secretary of the United States, he also said that given the nature of stakes that are between the two countries, it is almost in the interest of both the nations that they should look at trade talks to ensure that it goes in the logical direction. But having said that, the indication from the government, as far as the sources are concerned, Rajdeep, is that yes, 50% tariffs have kicked in from today. But as far as the trade talks between the two countries are concerned, the channel of communication is open. Remember, the negotiators from Washington were expected in New Delhi this week, and that did not really happen. The sense was that there is a total impasse, that there is a complete breakdown of communication between the two sides. That is not happening. What we are told is that there are concerns on both the sides, that there are positive signals on both the sides, and at the same time, the government of India is looking at newer markets. What sources are telling us is that EFTA has been signed, and it will come into effect sometime next month. And as far as negotiations with European Union is concerned, that is also at an advanced stage. But of course, at the moment, New Delhi very quietly waiting and watching as to how the signals emerge from Washington.
That's right, waiting and watching to see what Donald Trump does next, because you never know what Donald Trump will do next. Maria, of course, will be there with more on her bulletin at 10 p.m. Okay, it's time for an exclusive now. My special guest this evening is a very special one. Privileged to be joined by Dr. Raghuram Rajan, former Reserve Bank of India Governor, former Chief Economist of IMF, and of course a professor at the Chicago's Booth School of Business, and one of the world's leading voices on economics. I appreciate, Dr. Rajan, you joining us. You join us at a time on a day which is being described as T-Day, Tariff Day. The tariffs have kicked in, US tariffs 50% on India. Your first reactions to what has happened with these tariffs kicking in at 50%, including that 25% penalty for India buying Russian oil?
Well, it's unfortunate. It is deeply distressing that this should have happened. It is a blow to US-India relationships. It is certainly very, very harmful for small Indian exporters, our shrimp producers, our textile manufacturers. Lots of workers will be sort of hurt by this. Their livelihoods will be in jeopardy. And it's also a problem for the US. Buying goods with a markup of 50%, to the extent that some of them are still sent across with these kinds of tariffs, is harmful for the U.S. consumer. So this is an event which should not have happened. Unfortunately, it has.
I'll come to the impact it's having in a moment, but just to understand, how do you believe there's any rational explanation for what Donald Trump has done? Is he weaponizing tariffs as an instrument of foreign policy, or is he someone who's an ideologically committed to the idea of high tariffs and, in a way, protecting American businesses?
Well, I think there is a complicated set of rationales for these tariffs, not the specific ones on India, but generally Donald Trump's love for tariffs. I think certainly he believes that a current account deficit, trade deficit, is evidence that other countries are taking advantage of the United States rather than, they're buying goods, they're sending goods cheaply to the United States, which the US consumer benefits from. So this has been an old view of his, right from, Japan in the 1980s. And he has always believed that tariffs are a way of leveling the playing field. A second factor has been more recently the view that somehow tariffs will be a tax paid by outsiders and not by the US consumer, and therefore it's a cheap way of getting revenues, which can then help offset some of the tax cuts that he has made. A third one, which you see a lot of nowadays, is it's punitive. So it can be a way for the US to essentially use force when it doesn't want to use its military. So I think there's some aspects of each of these in the tariffs that are applied to different countries. And unfortunately, of course, the reality is that other countries suffer.
But specifically on India, when I look at the tariffs on Asian nations, we are way above now. We are 50%. Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Taiwan, Vietnam, all at 20%. With China, there's still negotiations on at various levels. But it almost seems as if India in particular has been singled out. Is that something that should worry us? Because that's what you said at the outset. A relationship, in a way, has been completely upended. It's almost as if India in particular is being punished in some way.
It is. I think there's no two questions about that. And to some extent, my discussions with foreign ministry officials suggest that there was an agreement which was on the cards, which would have brought India in with tariffs which were more like the Asian tariffs, more in line with them. And so we wouldn't look different and we would be on a level playing field. Of course, there was a hope that the special Modi-Trump relationship would yield something even better, but at least we would not look worse if that had played out. Something changed in between the negotiations that were going on, that seemed to be going on reasonably, and the sudden outbursts which have led to Peter Navarro writing a piece in the Financial Times accusing India of being an outlier in enabling Russia. The fact that Turkey and China have not been similarly tariffed for enabling Russian oil sales, or for that matter, the European Union for buying energy products from Russia. But also the fact that the Indian tariffs have been set at 25, the base tariffs, even while other countries are much lower in Asia, making India disadvantaged. We had hoped that India would actually find some advantage from these tariffs vis-a-vis other Asian producers, and in fact, it's gone the other way. So the relationship clearly has broken down. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, so what according to you explains that? The fact that India has been penalized 25% for these Russian oil purchases. Do you believe that's a red herring? Do you believe that that is something that was in India's interest to import oil from Russia at cheap prices? The Americans, Navarro and others are calling it profiteering. What's your own view? Should countries have the sovereign right to decide on these issues, or was that where perhaps India misread what the United States and the Trump administration intended to do?
I think we are beyond issues of fairness, sovereignty, etc. We are talking about a situation where it is a power play, but it's not just a simple power play driven by the exigencies of the moment. It's also what goes on in the American president's mind. And that is, a complex set of issues which everyone is trying to divine. What clearly seems to have happened is at some point, the president has decided that India is, a country which is not playing by the rules that he sets. And needs to be singled out. Navarro would not write in the Financial Times without permission, and he has been permissioned. The point, however, is that it is an exercise of power. There's no point talking about fairness, this, that. Yes, we do have the right to buy oil from whoever we want, but if there is a country which is applying pressure on us, weaponizing tariffs, as you've said, we have to ask ourselves how much we benefit from buying this oil. Who benefits in India? After all, there are refiners who are making excess profits. Do they still make those excess profits? Should we take some of those excess profits and benefit some of the exporters who are being hurt by the fact that they're buying oil from Russia? All these are questions that arise. I think fairness, we can talk till the cows come home about fairness, but that's not the issue at play here.
It's interesting the way you're putting it, because you've got China, on the other hand, which continues to be the largest importer of Russian oil. China is not being penalized and India is, but you're making an interesting point there, suggesting that the profiteering of Indian corporates through refining oils, Reliance and others, while now exporters, small exporters of shrimps, gems and jewelry and others take the hit. Do you believe, therefore, that there needs to be a complete rethink on this policy now?
I think it's worth considering how much we benefit from it and how much we are losing. And again, I think insisting on sovereignty, etc., is fine from the perspective of our rights. But at this point, it's a real power play. And we need to ask who's benefiting from this in the country, who's hurting, and on net, is the country benefiting? The price of Russian oil today is not that different from the market price of oil. Remember, we were importing only 2% from Russia before the sanctions were applied on Russia, and it became convenient for us to buy Russian oil, as many have said, with the connivance of the Americans. Now that the Americans have turned, I think it's worth asking how much does this benefit us and who is it going to? And do we need to continue this, or can we quietly shut down this and move towards buying oil on the market if it doesn't cost us that much? While it costs us enormous amounts in tariffs, it is certainly a policy question worth asking. Again, I'm not in any doubt about the sovereignty question, but the policy question can be quite different.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but there will be those listening to you, Dr. Rajan. You emphasize the word, we quietly reduce our dependence on Russian oil, but can we do it quietly in this environment? It will be seen as India succumbing to political pressure. So it's not just an economic question, it's also now a political question, obviously, the power play that you're talking about.
I think the question is more easily resolved if we ask ourselves who's paying the price for this purchase and who's getting the benefits. And if we equalize by taking from those who are benefiting to giving those who are paying the price, maybe that itself will reduce the incentive to go purchasing this Russian oil. I mean, let's face it, there is a cost being paid today for buying Russian oil. There's a benefit from it, and we need to ask ourselves as a country how this is playing out.
Let's turn then to the impact that it's had. The immediate impact has been on exporters, and there is a sense that this also, while exporters are taking a hit, textiles, shrimps, leather, there is also a belief that this could be an opportunity, to diversify our export basket, look well beyond America. There are others who believe this is an opportunity to come closer to BRICS, to China, to Russia, carve out new trade alliances. What's your sense? Is there an opportunity in this crisis that looms over us?
I think there is, a wake-up call. We should not be dependent on anybody to a large extent, right? And that goes for China, that goes for Russia, that goes for the United States. Trade has been weaponized. It's no longer according to WTO rules. Similarly, investment will be weaponized, finance will be weaponized. So I think the Prime Minister is right in saying, for example, in rare earths, we should look to whether we can be held up and what our alternative sources of supply are, including domestic ones. But we should do this for every commodity, both the ones that every good that we're exporting, but also goods that we're importing, to see our vulnerabilities and plan ahead to ensure our vulnerabilities are reduced. Yes, we will have some friends, but make sure there are multiple friends who can supply us rather than being dependent on one friend who might turn. And I would say, this also means that we can work with traditional adversaries or people who haven't, countries that haven't proved reliable in the past, but don't be too dependent on anyone.
So that would presumably include China, because till a few months ago, we were talking about India becoming part of a China plus one strategy as an alternative for a global supply chain, that we could compete with the Chinese. Are we now saying that this may well be an opportunity, rather than compete, to actually collaborate with the Chinese to see ourselves as part of some kind of a new trade axis if the Americans are going to, as we are saying repeatedly, weaponize tariffs against us?
I think tariffs can be weaponized by anybody. So I would say, let us form whatever relationships make sense, but don't be dependent on any one relationship. By all means, work with the Chinese, invite Chinese investment and get them to share some of their technology with us, because there's a lot to be learned from the Chinese. But make sure that you're not dependent on them, that you have alternatives, and those alternatives can be strengthened in times when the Chinese and you don't get along. I think this is a version of realpolitik which we really need to think carefully about in every area. We have to make sure we are reasonably diversified, because as we become stronger as an economy, more and more countries will become wary of us. And it is really important at that point that we have multiple alternatives, including, I wouldn't say entirely, but including some self-dependence.
But, you use the word self-dependence. In the last few days, a lot of talk about Make in India, about strengthening our Swadeshi spirit, Swadeshi 2.0. Now, in the past, this government in particular has been accused of being excessively protectionist, the Modi government, and trying to push Make in India, but not fully succeeding in that. Do you believe that that is the direction to go in? Or is this an opportunity in a way to break some of those protectionist barriers, to open ourselves much more to the world and compete by just improving the ease of doing business in this country? This provides, much like 1991 did, strangely enough, an opportunity to reform Indian businesses as well, make them more competitive.
My predilection here, it is for the latter. It is an opportunity for us to open up, become members of various supply chains, not just the ones that run into the US, but also across the world. Japan can be a good partner in many new activities because Japanese firms have invested tremendously in India. We need to also create more opportunities for our own firms, right? And that means doing all the reforms we've talked about. GST reforms are just one step, but the ease of doing business is something we've talked about a long time. It has to move from the drawing board to actual implementation. Our business people have to feel that doing business is actually easier rather than it's just some numbers in some charts that the finance ministry puts up. So I think this requires real work. I mean, remember, two budgets ago, 1.5 budgets ago, we got the announcement that there'd be a committee which would ease doing business. Well, what has it actually proposed? Why is it that we're not seeing more of those proposals actually make their way through the central government, but also the state governments? I think I'm exactly on the same page as you are when I say this is an opportunity for significant reforms, enhancing the pace of growth, enhancing the ease of doing business, and enhancing the level playing field in India for our small and medium, even large businesses to compete with each other, generate that growth.
You know, in conclusion, Dr. Rajan, I recall speaking to you a couple of months ago, and that time there was a relative uncertainty over what impact tariffs would have on growth rates across the world. There was talk of America slipping into a recession. That talk is still there, of a third of the American economy slipping into recession. There is talk now of tariffs having some kind of an impact on some of India's growth projections. What's your sense? Are we heading for uncertain times and possibly a US recession? How do you see it? Because Donald Trump seems to believe, don't worry, be happy.
I think the consequences of all the policy changes that have been made in the first half of this year will show up in the second half. Almost surely we will see higher inflation in the United States. Almost surely we will see slower growth. And of course, the jury is still out on what we'll see on interest rates because the Fed is being pummeled right now through a variety of pressures from the administration. But also the Fed is very wary of what's going to happen in the labor market. But broadly, I think the consensus, which I don't disagree with, is higher inflation, lower growth in the United States in the rest of the year. Now, what happens is, what matters is how this affects the policies that the administration is putting out. Right now, it seems as if there is no downside to these policies, and it's all upside, more revenues being generated from the tariffs that the administration has applied, and as yet, no significant slowdown in growth. Now, we have to wait and see if what economists predict actually comes out. The US administration is discounting what the economists predict and say it'll be wonderful. Let's see.
In conclusion, net, what would you say, therefore, should India's approach be in the near term? Is it to be cautious, wait and watch? Because who knows, Donald Trump may get up from the right side of the bed tomorrow and suddenly decide that he wants to again upturn US policy. So should we be cautious, wait and watch? Or should we respond in anger in some form and retaliate? Is it in our best interest to just wait this out over the next few months?
I think it is best to keep negotiating to see how we can, rectify the situation. I think 50% tariffs is in neither country's interest. We should certainly enlist US friends, including, for example, shrimp importers who are seeing their costs go up. Get them to also talk to the administration. I think it is quite important to see that we somehow get to the year of the president. We have a new ambassador for the United States who's a friend of the president. Talk to him also. But I think broadly, try and rectify the situation. And I think it's important here not to make a situation worse by reacting in anger. I think our foreign establishment can can follow the right approach, which many countries have, of trying to work with the administration to rectify issues. But I think it is, as you said, it is also a wake-up call for us. Let us not become overly dependent on any single country. Let us ensure we're part of the global supply chains across the world. Let us look east, let us look to Europe, let us look to Africa, including what we're also already doing with the US. And let us unleash those reforms, which we absolutely need to do in India to get to that 8.5% growth, which we need to employ our youth. That is something we've been talking about for a long time. This may be the wake-up call to get us to do that.
Dr. Raghuram Rajan, for perhaps giving us a wake-up call. They're all the way there from Chicago. Always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me here today on the News Today. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we've been hearing from experts, but let's turn to the situation on the ground. Which are the industries that have been affected the most? Gems and jewelries, textiles, shrimp exporters, and are livelihoods of ordinary workers in these industries now at stake? Take a look at the ground reality of Trump's tariffs' impact on India.
Donald Trump's 50% tariff on India has kicked in. While sectors like pharma, electronics and energy are exempted, textiles, leather goods, gems, seafood, which are vulnerable, are feeling the pinch. For Tirupur, the textile hub of Tamil Nadu, which is recovering after a series of setbacks like COVID pandemic and Ukraine, the tariffs pose a new challenge. With over 2,500 exporters, the town is India's knitwear capital and has reasons to worry. Here is why. At a 50% tariff rate, an Indian-made shirt that once sold at $10 will now cost American buyers $16.40, far costlier than $13.20 from Bangladesh, or $12 from Vietnam, or $14.20 from China.
2,500 exporters and 20,000 standalone units currently running in Tirupur, contributing about 68% of nation's knitwear export. Tirupur exporters, we can divide them into three classifications. One classification is completely doing the business only with the American buyers. So the worst affected factories are the first category. In the coming months, if this situation continues, the first and second category factories will look for the new markets.
The carpet sellers of Mirzapur are keeping their fingers crossed. The US is a big market for the industry, which employs thousands of artisans.
जब से ये चल रहा है कि बढ़ेगा घटेगा हटाएंगे और लोगों कंट्री की तरह, उस बीच दरमियान में जो उहापोह की स्थिति है, हमारे इंडस्ट्री में लगभग 3,000-4,000 करोड़ का कारपेट जो कि अमेरिका के लिए बनता है, वो इस समय डंप हो गया है.
Leather is another sector which is at risk. Kolkata has 450 exporters. The trio group is among the big names. The US tariff could force many of them to change strategy.
We expect the government to step in. During COVID days, we have seen the government stepping up the support to our industry. Coming back to the industry, what will the industry do? They will probably look at newer markets. They will probably try and reroute their exports through other markets which have lower tariffs.
The factory in Kanpur makes toys. Toy exporters had gained from Trump's first term after he imposed tariffs on China. This time it is a different story.
बहुत बड़ा इम्पैक्ट है, छोटा मोटा नहीं है. 50% टैरिफ इज़ टू मच. ठीक है, तो बायर अभी हमसे बोल रहे हैं, जो अभी ऑनगोइंग ऑर्डर्स हैं जो शिपमेंट्स करने हैं, उस पर बोल रहे हैं कि यू हैव टू पे 25%, देन ओनली विल एक्सेप्ट द ऑर्डर. इट इज़ नॉट पॉसिबल टू गिव 25%.
Exporters are pinning hopes on the government bailout, diversification of market, deals with other trading blocs. But they fear relief could take time. Bureau Report, India Today.
Okay, let's then go to our guests at the moment. Naresh Gujral is joining me. Naresh Gujral, of course, is been a former MP of the Akali Dal, but importantly, he's also former chairman of the Commerce Committee of Parliament and an exporter himself. Ajay Saha is Director General and CEO, Federation of Indian Export Organization. Appreciate both of you joining us. I want to come to you, Mr. Gujral, first. What's your sense? Is this a tipping point for many of you who've over the years looked at America as a primary market? Is this a moment to diversify? Or how would you describe what's happened over the last 24 hours?
Rajdeep, diversification is a word very easy to use. It takes years and years to build a market. We started building, for the garment industry at least, from 75 onwards. Government of India was promoting exports. At that stage, exporters were getting up to 35 to 38% cash incentives, duty drawbacks, licenses. Only then slowly could we make a dent in the market, and it's taken almost 5 decades to break into the US market. Same is the case for other products. It doesn't happen overnight that you press a button and you say diversification. Of course, all the exporters have been trying to diversify. Europe is sick. There are very few orders coming in from there. Where do you diversify? Africa? China? It's not easy. The main thing is US is a huge market and we cannot afford to let go. And once you vacate that space, somebody else will come and fill the void, and it will be impossible to get market share back. So it's important that the government supports its exporters today and immediately, so that factories don't close down, doesn't lead to mass unemployment, which will mean social chaos, which will mean our GDP going down, which will mean rupee taking a tumble. It has so many repercussions, and the job losses are going to be in millions, I can tell you that, because most of these industries that your people were naming earlier are all labor-intensive industries which give employment to unskilled or semi-skilled people. They can't find jobs anywhere. We saw their plight after COVID or earlier when demonetization took place. So this is a huge blow, and I hope, and I through your channel, I would like to impress upon the government, please act quickly. These people need support. We can't afford to have our factories closing down. At the same time, Rajdeep, I want to point out
let me take
buying
that
oil from Russia.
Let me take that to Dr. Sahai, because let me just take that for a moment to Ajay Sahai, because Ajay Sahai, here you're hearing Naresh Gujral saying lakhs of jobs, millions of jobs will be lost. Give us a ballpark figure, because there are those who believe is it as serious a crisis as Mr. Gujral is making it out to be, that if the US market imposes these tariffs, that destroys lots of Indian small businesses? How true is that?
Let us look into the big picture. Our export to the US last year was around $88 billion. In first 5 months, we have clocked around 20% plus growth to the US, and still 45% of my export to US will not be impacted of tariff. So we are talking about a scenario where for roughly half of the year plus, we have already made the exports. The challenge is for the balance 6 months, and where 45% is not impacted. But at the same time, 55% is getting impacted, which will be in the range of $20 billion plus. But at the same time, it is not that exports will not take place. We have talked to a number of exporters who are supplying to the brands. Brands probably have the margin where they can absorb 50% tariff. It will be difficult for them to shift the supply chain, as they have very strict social compliance norms also. But when the issue comes to the finalization of order, let us say for summer season, for the apparel or for the footwear sector, there are the challenges. We are actively engaged with the government. We are also requesting the government that let us look into retaining the US market, because as Mr. Gujral says, once the market is lost, it's very difficult to recover the market. So that's the priority as of now for us. And I'm pretty sure that government will come forward to help the exporter in this scenario. We are also meeting the different authorities in this connection. So far, the response has been positive, and entirely agree with Mr. Gujral that we need solutions very quickly.
You know, but Mr. Gujral, I keep also hearing talks today of Swadeshi 2.0. I heard an MP from the Aam Aadmi Party saying we must boycott American goods. I mean, rationality would demand to find solutions. Do you believe that the time has come? You were mentioning something about Russian oil when I interrupted you. Do you believe the time has come to relook at our priorities, reset our priorities now?
No, Rajdeep, one thing I'm very clear about, that no country, howsoever powerful it may be, they cannot dictate our foreign policy. So on that issue, I am totally with the government that we will not allow any country to dictate to us. At the same time, what I was trying to tell you was that while we've been buying oil from Russia, what I've been reading in the papers is that we have saved roughly $17 billion in the last 3 years. So we have the money. It's not that we haven't saved money. Now this is the time to come to the aid of our exporters and make sure that not one factory closes down in any of the segments. Labor-intensive industries are very difficult to set up because that means training and retraining labor. It means retaining buyers, first to cultivate those buyers and then to retain those buyers is a very difficult task. And overnight you cannot diversify. It takes sometimes 5 to 10 years to break into markets. And today the fact is, where can we break in? Most of the economies, as I said to you, in Europe, they're not doing well. Australia is not doing that well. Japan is a very small market. So you cannot lose the American market. And yes, while we have issues with America today, I'm sure it's only a matter of time. If we support our exporters, in good time, this issue of Ukraine, Russia will be solved.
Right.
And I hope then the punitive taxes that are being imposed on us, the tariffs being imposed on us, would be removed. And
okay,
Rajdeep,
let me leave
may
it there.
I also add here?
I wish we had more time.
That other
we
countries-
will, of course, get you. We will get you we will get other voices in the days ahead. But for now, I must leave it there. I appreciate Mr. Gujral, Mr. Sahai, for joining me here on the news today. Let me turn from there to another of our big stories. Rahul Gandhi is on his big vote Adhikar Yatra through Bihar. Today there was a show of strength with Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin joining him, along with Rahul Gandhi's sister Priyanka Gandhi Vadra. Rahul was in Muzaffarpur, where he once again reiterated his charge of vote Chori against the Election Commission and the BJP, but he went a step further, once again drawing in Donald Trump, claiming that Trump had now claimed that Narendra Modi agreed to stop the India-Pakistan war at 5 hours' notice after a phone call from Donald Trump. Remember, Mr. Modi has denied in Parliament that there was any call that he took from the US President during Operation Sindoor. Listen for a moment to what Rahul Gandhi said on his vote yatra.
ट्रंप ने आज कहा, सुनिए, ट्रंप ने आज कहा कि जब हिंदुस्तान पाकिस्तान का युद्ध हो रहा था, मैंने फोन उठाया और नरेंद्र मोदी से कहा कि सुन, ये जो तू कर रहा है, इसको 24 घंटे के अंदर बंद कर। और नरेंद्र मोदी ने 24 घंटे में नहीं, 5 घंटे में सारा का सारा रोक दिया।
Now, there's been a lot of rhetoric in recent times over so-called vote chori, political battle lines being drawn. But in Maharashtra, a state that went to the polls in November 2024, a case has come wherein even before the elections took place, a candidate from the Peasants Workers Party, an opposition party, had alleged that more than 85,000 duplicate voters had been found in his constituency in Panvel and surrounding areas. This has triggered a storm. Why were these complaints made even before the elections took place not listened to by the Election Commission? And is Panvel a prototype of what's gone wrong with electoral rolls in different parts of the country? Today's special report is on Panvel and just why this constituency could become part of a wider tug of war over election irregularities. Take a look.
ये सब डुप्लीकेट वोटर्स हैं।
Long before leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi alleged irregularities in voter list, a politician in Maharashtra has been fighting a battle claiming discrepancies in the electoral rolls. The fight began 2 months before the 2024 assembly elections in the state. Balram Patil, the Maharashtra Vikas Aghadi candidate from Panvel, and his team studied the voters list in Raigad district. Patil claims his team uncovered 85,211 duplicate voter names across 4 constituencies. 25,855 in Panvel, 27,275 in Uran, 16,096 in Airoli, 15,397 in Belapur, and 588 allegedly dubious entries. He approached the sub-divisional officer, also the returning officer, to remove duplicate listings. Patil claims he got no response, prompting him to move the Bombay High Court.
1/10 को मुंबई हाई कोर्ट में गया, 11/10 को मुंबई हाई कोर्ट ने यहाँ पे 11/10/2024 में ये फैसला दिया कि 188 पनवेल चुनावी क्षेत्र से ये जो नाम है वो हटाए जाए और उसके लिए उन्होंने 2 सप्ताह की मुदत दी, लेकिन उधर भी कुछ हुआ नहीं.
On October 18th, the Aurangabad bench of the Bombay High Court rejected a similar plea by Eknath Shinde's Shiv Sena MLA Chandrakant Patil, which he filed for Muktanagar constituency in Jalgaon. The court pointed out that election dates were announced and cited the EC's inability to correct electoral rolls in such a short time. Patil claims that on October 23rd, Panvel's sub-divisional officer Pawan Chandak rejected his plea, citing the Aurangabad court's decision.
इलेक्शन ईयर जब रहता है तो कोई भी नाम हम डिलीट नहीं कर सकते हैं, ये इलेक्शन कमीशन के निर्देश है. जब अभी इलेक्शन अदर देन इलेक्शन ईयर है, उसमें 7 नंबर के फॉर्म यदि भरते हैं तो उसकी इंक्वायरी करके या सू मोटो भी वो इंक्वायरी करके हम नाम कम कर सकते हैं.
On November 28th, 2024, voting took place in the Maharashtra Assembly elections. 3 days later, the result was declared. BJP's Prashant Thakur polled 1,83,931 votes. Balram Patil secured 1,32,840 votes. The BJP candidate won by a margin of 51,091 votes. While Patil disputes the outcome, MLA Prashant Thakur rejects the charge of multiple voting.
जब से ऑनलाइन वोटिंग रजिस्ट्रेशन चालू हुआ है तब से कई जगह पर लोग अपना नाम लिस्ट में दायर करते वक्त अपना पहला वाला नाम जहां पर था उसको कैंसिल नहीं करवाते. इसका मतलब कहीं इलेक्शन कमीशन ने ये जानबूझ के किया है, ऐसा बताना मैं समझता हूं गलत है.
Patil claims that his request for electoral rolls data and marked voter list from the assembly seats of Panvel, Uran, Airoli and Belapur were denied. He adds that his team analysed votes cast in Panvel seat.
11,600 लोगों का जो लिस्ट मैंने निकाला है, ये वो लिस्ट है जिन्होंने दोबारा वोटिंग किया है पनवेल के पनवेल में. इसके अलावा भी पनवेल के 90 बूथ्स ऐसे जिनका मैं वेरिफिकेशन नहीं कर पाया हूँ, उसमें भी लोग दोबारा वोटिंग किए वो निकलेंगे.
इलेक्शन के बाद उन्होंने कुछ ऐसा ऑब्जेक्शंस वगैरह नहीं था, अभी डाला होगा तो मालूम नहीं है। बूथ वाइज इलेक्ट्रोल रोल तो अवेलेबल है, वो नेट से भी ले सकते हैं। नहीं, रोल तो देते हैं हम, जो राष्ट्रीय पक्ष रहते हैं उनको फ्री ऑफ चार्ज देता है, जो अदर पार्टीज रहती है वो कॉस्ट भर के वो ले सकते हैं।
Patil says he submitted his findings to Maharashtra's Chief Electoral Officer and the Chief Election Commissioner in June 2025 and is awaiting a response.
The controversy over voter duplication has sparked widespread debate. Raghuram Patil's claim points to systemic issues in voter roll management, but with legal and procedural hurdles, path to resolution remains unclear. So the question now is whether these allegations will prompt reforms to ensure free and fair elections in the future. With camera person Sachin Sawant, myself Ritvik Bhalekar for India Today, Mumbai.
A troubling story there from Panvel. Clearly a need for an investigation. Let's turn from there to tonight's ground report, which is coming from the flood-hit Jammu region. At least 34 people, mainly pilgrims, have died on the road to Vaishno Devi, even as the region is battered by rains and rescue operations are underway. Sunil Bhattji reports from Jammu.
Cloudburst, landslides, flash floods. Nature has turned relentless tormentor in the hills of Jammu and Kashmir. For 4 straight days, the skies haven't stopped opening up. Torrential rains have pounded the region. Flash floods tear through villages. Bridges crumble like paper. Electric poles snap. Towers topple. Several bridges have also collapsed. One crucial collapse in Jammu city, where cars were caught in the rubble. In Katra, disaster struck. Rain-triggered landslide hit along the Mata Vaishno Devi pilgrimage route. Many have lost their lives and several are yet to be rescued. Prime Minister Narendra Modi condoled the large-scale loss of lives. Flights and trains have been halted or cancelled after heavy deluge. While rescue operations are underway, millions remain cut off. The water level in the Chenab is flowing above the danger mark. The swollen river threatening habitations and banks of Tavi River.
People who are stuck in floodwaters are being rescued. Indian Army, Jammu and Kashmir Police, NDRF, SDRF, CRPF and other agencies are working in close coordination, and no stone is being left unturned when it comes to providing relief to the people. But situation is alarming. It continues to rain cats and dogs here in Jammu region.
Jammu and Udhampur have recorded their worst rainfall ever in 24 hours. People living in low-lying areas have been asked to stay extra vigilant and avoid going near water bodies. With Sunil G. Bhatt, Bureau Report, India Today.
Our thoughts and prayers there with the people of Jammu. Tonight's Get Real India story, or should we call it Only in India? An activist is walking from Mumbai to Goa with one purpose. He wants to map all the potholes on the road to expose the apathy of civic authorities and try and find a solution. Take a look at this unique story.
Mumbai and potholes go hand in hand. This is NH66 that links the country's financial capital to the tourist hub Goa. The road is broken at many places. Images of vehicles negotiating the potholes are viral on social media. Now an activist has decided to say no more. Chaitanya Usha Lakshman Patil is on a Rasta Satyagraha walking from Mumbai, capturing the highway's sorry state.
जब मैंने ये सब सीपी ग्राम और आरटीआई से ये इन्फॉर्मेशन निकाली अभी तक कितने लोगों के एक्सीडेंट हुए कितने लोगों की जाने गई है अगर आप इतना मतलब टैक्स वगैरह पे करके भी इतना सब अगर वही झेल रहे इतने साल से आपने खुद की जमीन वगैरह देके भी तो इसका कुछ ये नहीं है.
Patil, who is an electronics engineer, started his mission in Raigad.
जब मैं रायगढ़ में रहता था तब उधर का होता था तब मैं जब ऑनलाइन डालने लगा तब लोगों से रिक्वेस्ट दादा हमारे पास कब आओगे हमारे इधर पे बहुत सारे परेशान है तो इसलिए मैंने ठान लिया और जब मेरे पास सीपी ग्राम और आरटीआई का जो भी काउंट मिला तो मैं सोच लिया कि भाई अभी यहाँ तक सीमित रहना सही नहीं है इसलिए मैं पलसपेट टू झाराप पत्रा देवी तक चल के पैदल जा रहा हूँ जिसमें ये सब जो भी क्वेरीज है निकल रही है उसका सबका फोटो जीपीएस फोटोज खींच के जो भी रिस्पेक्टिव डिपार्टमेंट्स है रिस्पेक्टिव लोक प्रतिनिधि है सबको मैं देने वाला हूँ.
The Mumbai-Goa highway project began over 14 years ago but is yet to be completed.
हमारा रोड का काम अच्छे से करवा दो गाड़ी की हालत ख़राब हो जाता है हम लोग रोड टैक्स भरता है या तो ऐसा कुछ तुमने इंडिकेटर दे दो रास्ता ख़राब है कुछ तो करना चाहिए ना.
बहुत तकलीफ होता है टायर फटने का डर होता है बहुत तरह की तकलीफ होता है और प्रॉब्लम है कि गाड़ी भी लेट भी चलता है गाड़ी.
The government has set a new deadline of March 2026 for the completion of the highway.
Like everywhere, even this year, to celebrate Ganpati festival from Mumbai, people from Konkan area will go to their villages in the same condition. They will take hours to reach there. It's said that road making business is a good business in India. Once you make a road, then there are potholes, then you earn to repair it and then continue the process till eternity. And this seems to be the condition with Mumbai-Goa too. With camera person Sai Prasad Patil, Nilesh Jalte, Mustafa Sheikh for India Today.
Some things in India will never change. Potholes are among them.